All right, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for this beautiful gathering. Now it's the two of us. We managed to work out quite a few technical difficulties. Also, Zoom has updated their system so we can broadcast from Zoom last week, but here we are right now. And the main topic for today that we wanted to address is how to navigate your ascension process, since all of us are going through it basically, regardless if you just awakened or you're in the middle of it, or maybe you've been awakened and working on yourself for decades, maybe. Like the same processes and cycles apply to all of us. And today we want to share a few tips on what to expect, like what is happening, how to recognize stuff, and basically some practical things on how you can navigate this whole situation and make the most out of it, basically.
That's right.
And yeah, we have higher vibrations with us, who will share her
Hi.
wisdom on ascension symptoms and how it works and what we can do with it. And I also want to address very much likely the physical aspect of it, the mind aspect of it, and the spirit aspect, and bringing all into one so we can create more balance. But before we start that, I wanted to share a few things. If anyone is interested in more group activities, we have our Patreon community where each week we have group activities and live gatherings. Next week, we're going to have live channeling sessions where you can ask questions from my guides, whom I channel during these written messages that I share on YouTube. And also, if you're into transmutation, alchemy, the Kabbalion Hermetic philosophy, check out the book that I published last year, The Teachings of Thoth, the Atlantean. It's in the description below. It's a free ebook, but if you prefer Kindle, it's like $1. I couldn't make it cheaper than that. So yeah. It's basically free. And yeah, you can convert the PDF into Z3TY and you can just upload it to your Kindle. So there you go. A cheat code. How to bypass that. Okay, so let's start with today's topic on how to navigate your ascension symptoms. And I made some points here that I brought through. And the first part that we're going to address is the ups and downs periods. We're constantly experiencing this going up, feeling okay, then comes the low point. And what does this mean? And why is it happening? And some methods later on after we have addressed the first part on how to navigate it. And yeah, I would just do a brief summary of it. It's very obvious, I think, for all of us, what are the up parts when everything is very synchronistic, we're feeling all right, everything's cool, and all of a sudden just down period is coming when things don't go well, at least according to our ego minds, and challenges come up. We're triggered, maybe a sickness can happen, an accident, maybe something happens in the family or in your relationship, your job or whatever. And yeah, stuff needs to be dealt with because it is time to process something new in your ascension process, basically. And right now we're in the winter season, which is a wonderful opportunity for reflection. And basically you can see in the seasons, maybe the summer and spring being this uptime of everything growing, prospering, moving forward, being very proactive. And after that comes the autumn time when you're going into more of a hibernation state, you're starting to reflect on stuff. And now we're in the winter time, the downtime, where it's just great for regeneration, healing, reflecting, and working stuff in ourselves, since there aren't that many distractions right now, at least in the northern hemisphere for us.
Right.
So yeah. So yes, please, higher vibrations, please also elaborate on basically this down time. Some people may call it the dark night of the soul. I think maybe that's a very drastic version of it. Yeah. But yeah, or maybe we could start with the periods which is not as dramatic or drastic from that perspective. How can we recognize if we're going into that phase again?
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of so the idea of let's just go ahead and go for the dark night of the soul, because it actually it's actually better than we think. So we've already talked about this before. That's actually why I was digging a second ago to pull out this graph. So we all start, I don't know if you can see that very well. I think it's meant to be this way. Wait, there we go, this way. So we all start out going through this experience and we spiral. So as we spiral, everybody thinks that when you get back to this point again, oh no, but I already healed through that. And it's not that you've not taken care of this part. It's just that the next layer, there's more to it. You're going deeper into the root. And so a lot of us noticing that we're going back into, it feels like a cycle, that we're going back into density. It's just that we have healed through enough of that layer that now it's time to dip again. There's another part to it that's happening simultaneously as we're raising our vibration. So our vibration starts here, say, and we're going up to this point. We don't just kind of move up to that vibrational state. There's this turbulence like movement that's occurring, you know, on our way up there. And so there's a lot of dips down. As those dips occur, they do feel real dense, especially after having been in this higher vibrational frequency for a period of time. The other point of that, of the season, the time that we're in, you know, in the Northern Hemisphere, is that a lot of us, you can see, and during these Zoom meetings, we can talk about this with different people on other parts of the planet that are having symptoms simultaneously, though these ones in particular that we're talking about do seem to be a seasonal type of thing. Our bodies are in this state of like hibernation, reflection, like you said, introspection, as well as that experience of right now there's this uncertainty that a lot of us are experiencing because the weather is just haywire. And so we're noticing our bodies reacting, and therefore our emotional response to it is flared, I would say, you know, inflamed perhaps. And like here right now, normally we would have enough snow that it would be as deep as my knees, and there's hardly any snow anywhere right now. It's just been warm. And so there's this false spring happening for a lot of people that adds to that experience. And that affects all areas that you described, the body, mind, and spirit, you know, where we have every part of us is in this space and is in this healing through. There's something else that's occurring right now too that's been really awesome, that as we're healing through each thing, it feels like we're disconnecting, that we're pulling away, that we're emotionally, energetically, spiritually, all of those things, we feel isolated all of a sudden. Where you can normally, as empaths, we feel everybody, right? We're connecting right now, like I feel all of you here right now. And then there's this like this void that's been happening. People are going through this, all of a sudden they feel no energy, they feel separate. And that can be alarming. I bring that up because a lot of people are experiencing it right now, and I've just done it before. And it does seem to be a seasonal thing. There's no exact timing for it. It just happens during this time of year. February is typically the biggest awakening window of time every year. We get more people in awakening in February.
And I also had my awakening in February.
Did you?
I think it was on 21st of February, 2012, or something like that.
There you go. A lot of people. I started my my weekly Zoom meetings in February last year, and it was it's been amazing to see everybody coming on and say the same thing. So it's good to know that, meaning that it's, even if you're in the awakening right now, that's the time that you
like you can reach another level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, like since we've I wanted to address this whole seasonal stuff again, like yeah, like nature is resting, and also like we're part of nature. So basically going with the flow of nature would be very much advised. But mostly in our Western society, like we have the opposite. It's like we ended last year and now it's 2023. You have all these resolutions, all these new projects, and like basically like everyone is like stimulating and pushing you that, okay, like it's now time to start this, and like it's time to start that, and like go, and like do this, do that, and now it's like not the time for it. And I think that's also why it feels so hard and difficult, because it's like against the flow of how we work. And like if you look in nature, like everything is resting. They're like the birds and the plants are not like go, like grow. Like it's
Right.
cold outside and they're hibernating and like gathering energy for the next growing season. Yeah, although here in Eastern Europe, we have an unusually warm weather, and some plants actually do think that it's spring. So yeah, we have beautiful flowers in our garden, which is absolutely crazy in the middle of January, but they're
Yeah.
beautiful nonetheless.
Wow. We're having the
Okay.
same thing too. I'm amazed that you're having the same weather. I'm in America. I'm over in the Pacific Northwest and inland, so we tend to get quite a bit of snow. It's so amazing to watch. We have stuff growing too. It's so confusing.
Yeah, like everything in our garden that we have planted in the middle of November for the spring season, so they can spring out. Like they just started to come out of the ground like 2 weeks ago. So
That's
I'm not
crazy.
sure what is going to happen to them until like March or April. We'll see.
Wow.
Yeah, if you just started gardening, like onions prefer or like the cold, so I think they will be okay, but the rest will probably die. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to add anything to that before we go into the next section?
Yeah. While
Okay.
we're in this place, in this state, this hibernation, this stasis is really what we're in, right? It's a stasis state. Say that 3 times fast, right? Um, it's the time that you are being asked or being invited to take advantage of that. And so in the, consider that the types of activities that you're doing in a spiritual way. A lot of us are, we're moving towards something, all of us are. And so, consider what kinds of reflect. For instance, I've been meditating a lot more than I tend to do in the summertime. In the summertime, meditation is important all the time. It's very, very important and useful to come to that center, come to that place. I had gotten in the habit of not doing as deep and long meditations as I tend to do at this time of year. And I've just noticed a pattern for it. And the kind of healing and upgrades, perhaps, as if we're in the video game paradigm, that occur as a result of taking advantage of this stasis period is so useful. More healing. We're more tired for a reason. It's not just a seasonal thing, though seasonally speaking, that does happen more at this time of year. Take advantage of those times. A lot of times when we're tired, it's not just our body, but our higher selves, others that are here on our spirit team that are guiding us to go into self, to just quiet self for, breaks, take periods of just reflection. Guardian's example of going into the bathroom stall at work, for 5 minutes just to kind of I'm not just Guardian, me too. This is a really good example of how to utilize that if you can't find a time alone to get to that 0 point, to center yourself. Go into a bathroom stall. No one's going to bother you, and you can kind of recharge that battery and get that download that's coming in. That's another point of why we're tired. I've been getting that a lot. We're being called to sleep because there's downloads that need to occur while we're in that. We're not so distracted in ego space, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and like also for the body to properly heal, you need sleep. And like that's when a lot of evolution, growing or changing happens in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have to take advantage of it as much as we can right now.
Right.
Okay, so before we go into the next phase of how to engage mind, body, and spirit together to like navigate this process, like we were thinking of moving the live events to a different time. So right now, what time is it in the US and the West Coast?
Right. In the Pacific, whatever standard time, excuse me.
Yeah,
It's
PST,
12:21
yeah.
p.m.
Oh, okay. And here in Athens or Eastern Europe, it's 10:21 p.m. And in London, I think it's 8:20 p.m. So
Yeah.
yeah, like we're thinking to move it like 10 hours on, like that will be like early in the morning for me here in Eastern Europe, and it will be like in the afternoon or later in
It'd
the
be late
evening,
at night for me.
late at night. Yeah, but I think for people like in the East Coast, no, yeah, in the East Coast, that will be like very much in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if maybe like a different time would work for you, like please put it in the chat box or in the comment section. Like where do you live and like what time would work best for you?
Right.
Please do share that and like let's see what we can work out. Because we'll probably like experiment in the couple of coming weeks and see what we can come up with.
Yeah. And perhaps, I don't know if you feel like it, we could, I could do it on my channel or your channel. We could produce a poll also and get some kind of feedback that way
No,
as
like
well.
that's a great idea too. Yeah. And we'll find some kind of solution while we're like recalibrating our schedules and all that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guardian's 10 hours later than me. So for him, meeting this late is difficult. And for me, this is the earliest I can meet. I can meet a lot later though. So
Yeah, that's like early in the morning for it.
yeah.
So yeah, we will work out something. Okay. So the next phase of our whole discussion would be like how to navigate those downtimes and like how to come out of that in like in a better way.
Yeah.
Would be my point or what I want to impart today is because I think like many of us are like struggling with the whole process of, okay, like I feel low on energy, I'm not in a good mood, things suck, and yeah, like I have to do all these things, and yeah, like we just try to like push forward as we normally do, even though like the current is against us in those situations. And like, what can we do in those situations? And the message that I have written down, like, or at least the bullet points, is that you have to like engage mind, body, and spirit together. Since we're human beings, we're physical and spirits and energetic as well at the same time. And we can engage the body by movement, by exercise, or somehow stimulate your physical body so energy can actually move through you more fluently, because we're physical beings. It's not enough to just sit all day long and meditate. Like you have to engage with your physical body too to make it work. Like that's why we're here, and there's no escaping it, the physical aspect of this reality. So engage with your physical body. And the next part, I don't know, do you wish to maybe elaborate on the physical part before we go to the mind phase? Okay.
Yes, please. I actually have a list. I won't go into detail. I also talked about, or I wrote movement, and movement can be dance, it can be yoga, it could be qigong, it could be any of these types of things. I know people who cleaning the house, you know, having children or whatever. So it's an ongoing task. Is one of their like spiritual upgrade moments, and they know that. And so whatever it is for you, for me, dance is the biggest thing. Like I am that person that dances in the aisles at the store when they're playing music. You know, I don't care anymore. I used to care a lot. And that for me is a celebration of life. I find myself in that place of joy. And as that movement's occurring, while that joy's occurring, it's a different kind of meditation. I don't know how else to
like you're raising your vibration.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really another tool is this time of year, again in the northern hemisphere, those of us who are in colder months, even though things are blooming and things like that, the ground is still frozen in a lot of places. And so being able to connect to earth in that way, we bring soil into the house. There's actually a few years ago they started to talk about it in the world of psychology. They call it earthing now. And you bring the soil into the home, or wherever can be warm. And then you put your feet on top of it. You can dig your feet into it. It's kind of fun, but you just having the soles of your feet on it for like 5 minutes a day or every other day. And then 10 minutes for your hands, because the pores in your hands are smaller, so it takes longer to absorb. You have the ionization process that occurs with that. You absorb the minerals in that. There's always a question, how often do you need to change the soil? And I'll just get a container about this big of soil, and that works all winter, so it's very rich and full, and so it doesn't need to be replaced that often. And then in order, it sounds like I'm talking more about spirit or mind in this, though. Automated writing, this is a form of channeling, early on, especially while we're doing all of these things. So I would find myself in dance and doing that, raising my vibration, just in that space of love. And then the need to create would come. And usually for me, that's either sketching or writing. Grab a notebook and start to let whatever needs to come out. That's a different, then you can start to receive this guidance in a more direct way. And so I kind of went past the physical part. The last part of the physical part before I move away, I'm sorry about that, is Epsom salt baths.
How does that work?
Pardon me?
I heard of it, but I'm not sure how it works.
It's just a bath, take a bath and put some Epsom salt in it. We are these beings of light that have this amazing high resonance. So any water we interact with, we are transforming into holy water, essentially. So now you're interacting with this holy water, adding this Epsom salt into it. It gives you some more of the minerals that we're not getting in the wintertime, and honestly, now that the world is covered in concrete, everybody's wearing shoes, a lot of people don't get the minerals that they need on a regular basis, even in the summer. And just to soak in that for, it doesn't have to be that long. If you're not a bath person, you can even do a foot soak. All of these different, the soles on our feet have the largest pores of any other place on our body. And so any type of medicinal delivery system can be done through soaking your feet. You can put herbs in the water, as long as your feet fit into a bucket, it works. And then the cleansing part of that process that I've found that's important and essential is to watch it drain away. So if you're taking a bath and you're in the bathtub, most people get out and then the water, I've noticed though, I've thanked the water. Thank you for the healing. And you thank it for doing what you want, what you need, right? And the water's happy to do that. And as you thank it and say, I love you to the water, it changes it meets that resonance. It changes. There's actually examples of it where you can see in a microscopic way the water changing, and then thanking it for taking whatever it is that isn't in harmony with you, that isn't serving you any longer. As the water's draining away and down the pipe or whatever, it works like 5 times stronger. I've noticed doing that last process. It may sound silly sitting in the tub watching the water leave, but it really is effective.
Can be very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you reminded me of the research. I think he's called Masaru Emoto, the Japanese scientist who did all this research on water and how water changes its shape depending on what emotions or energies you're emitting it to it, what intentions you have. And he had I had a very cool quote from him. I posted in the community section. I think it's we bless water, we thank water, we are all water, we are all one. So
I like it. It's true. And there's a lot of research you can dig into. It's fun to see the comparison of the pictures of when you say something kind to it versus unkind.
Yeah, just think of it in a sense that, hey, that's water, and that's how it behaves, and most of our body is made out of that stuff. So whenever you hold those resonances in yourself, then basically your body reacts to it in a very obvious way. It's subtle, it won't kill you on the spot if you have too many bad emotions or something, or if you harbor anger. But yeah, it affects your body on a physical way. affects the water of your body, which your body is made out of mostly. So basically, in a long term, if you're like holding those dense emotions and like those maybe ill intent, or you want to harm someone, or like you're just that energy vampire, just want as some kind of weird satisfaction from like torturing people or like causing pain for other people, like basically that is like poisoning your physical body, like holding those emotions and intentions in yourself.
Right.
So instead of that, you can choose to crystallize the water in your body by holding higher vibrational emotions in yourself.
Right.
And the best way you can do that is what we've just explained, to like do stuff that you enjoy and be playful, or just as you said, like put on some music and dance and sing or whatever, and you're like raising your vibration, you're crystallizing the water of your body.
Yeah, exactly. And as well, it is unkind self-talk. You know, the negative self-talk that we do, we are doing the same thing that we do with this microscopic water example, is that we're speaking unkind things to ourselves. And you can transmute all of that stuff. That's the coolest part of the story, is we can change that by saying, I love you, I appreciate you. My kiddo's always doing that. You can hear in the bathtub, I love you, I appreciate you. And she's changing the water frequency. And that was a point I forgot to make before. About the other thing about the physical stuff, Guardian, is the food. When it's not even important really so much as what you're eating exactly. Everybody has their own thing. Everyone's on their own path. I slowly moved away from certain foods that I was eating earlier in my life. The main thing, though, is to bless that food. You know, like I always thought that was such a hokey thing that my family did growing up, you know, and now I understand it. The tradition of it changed over time. And now I understand it in that what I'm doing is, so this food that I'm about to eat, often it's been handled by another person, at least one other person, before it's gotten to me. And who's to say that that individual was in a happy place? You know, there's a disgruntled employees, there's whatever's going on. And that the food has a high water content also. So it takes on the energy of the emotion. And so while I'm preparing the food, there's this process of taking the light into my hand, the love that comes down from God, and then kind of, it almost feels like I'm pushing it into it, you know, so then your hands go over the top. And as that's happening, you can actually feel the collection coming up from the food of the disharmonious energies. And as that's collected, then I get to release it and say thank you. And you can do that as many times as you want. You can spend 20 minutes doing it, as well as when you're preparing the food for each ingredient. Noticing also physically touching these ingredients with your fingers instead of using the barrier of the spoon or the fork or whatever. Your body will tell you whether or not it's something that it wants and needs at this time. And so what we're doing is we're with intention taking in things that will help us. And so and you know, we already wash our produce, let's time, you know, and then energetically washing it also. So I just didn't want to forget to make that point.
Yeah. And I think like it's like simpler with like vegetables or minerals. With like meat, it's even more complicated because like all that like fear and like death is in the meat. And also like physically, I think they've shown, I think, you know, we also have some kind of tradition here that if you like want to, I don't know, like eat a lamb or something, like that they shouldn't see the knife come in because it would change the taste of their meat or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, like basically that fear of death and that whole scare and shock basically of dying or being killed is like in the meat of that animal, and it stays there. So it's even more important to like purify it, and as you said, like thank the animal for their sacrifice, like thank you for offering yourself and feeding my family. Like there's a reason, like if you like go back and study these indigenous people, like after they have hunted the deer or whatever they have killed, like they say a prayer to it because like thank you for allowing to feed my family and like giving life to us and all that.
Yeah.
And basically to like and disentangle that thing that has happened there between the two of you.
Exactly.
And that you're like not taking that dense energy and like putting it into your body, because you are what you eat, basically. Like your body is going to be made out of that energy, basically. You're integrating that into yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so should we go into the mind phase?
Yes.
Okay, so the second part, in the first part, we talked about engaging the body and like, what can you do navigating that aspect? And the second part would be the mind. And in this part, I have written down on what we should address is like beliefs. And during these periods, it's like great to bring up beliefs, like you can coin them negative belief systems that are not serving you any longer. And now it's the time to bring them up, see them for what they are, and recondition yourself by actually replacing them with belief systems that you actually prefer to have, and that they are actually constructive in your life experience. So I think this is the process that most of our lives are going through, like especially in the beginning, like when you're starting out to be more self-aware and conscious of like, okay, I have all these shitty belief systems regarding myself, my loved ones, the world, all that, like who we are and why we are here. And it's like basically, in a sense, like not everyone, but being your own worst enemy, because you have all these regulations regarding how you perceive reality that are actually detrimental to your well-being. And basically life assists you in bringing them up by triggering you, by bringing up events that are unpleasant to show you that, hey, like there is something here that you should look at because you are being triggered, or this is unpleasant, or you hate the situation because you have a belief system attached to this which is not working for you. So whenever like these unpleasant conditions come up, like I think I needed like 5 years to like recalibrate myself on this way, that when unpleasant things happen, they don't happen that they want to cause harm to me or to cause me pain or any of that. They are there to actually assist me in my evolution. It is there to assist me in my healing process. And I am going to use it to become a better version of myself and to grow. And yeah. Do you wish to further elaborate?
There's a couple of things. Well, all limitation that is before us is something that we've chosen, whether or not we want to accept that fact. That's the truth of the experience that we're in. And so a lot of these limitations are things like false beliefs that are dissuading us from the forward momentum that we are taking in this experience. And so it's all about everything that's happening right now. Everything is a slow, very, very slow motion version of breaking down of all systems. And so one of those systems, the main one, is that which is us. We manifest what's in front of us. Everything that is part of my experience, I am actively choosing every day. That's fun and all, but what do you do about that, right? How do you change that? How do you upgrade that? And I know that not very long ago, our power manifestation like had an uptick. Like all of a sudden it's more powerful, more instantaneous than before. And the more that you're able to see that and it's proved to you, the easier it is to do it. And so to trigger that, I've found the most useful thing is to create that belief in yourself. Say, like convince yourself that this thing is going to occur. A lot of people will do meditations. Like the most common one is abundance meditations, because that's another false belief. Everyone is abundant. That's the irony of it. We have decided we create lack. We create lack by telling ourselves we have lack when we're actually the most abundant. And so breaking those things down one at a time. against contrary to what we've been raised to believe, and in those beliefs that we are raised with, we're creating those limitations to begin with. It's that vicious cycle. So to start that, find something that you can empower, you can prove your that how powerful you are. For me, I played with paper. Sitting there, I can move things. Everybody can. It's just allowing yourself to see it. Once you witnessed it, then you can break everything else away. So paper, there's no win, there's no way that I can logically convince myself that that didn't happen. And I'll flip the paper over, without touching it. And once I was able to see myself do it instead of doing it with my eyes closed. At that point, all belief opened up, and then it freed the mind, it freed the restrictions, so whatever the example is for you, I just heard somebody else using the example of they wanted to experiment and find that empowerment with people. So they would call for someone to call them on the phone. And then, enough times of that happening where they can't convince themselves, otherwise. We're all connected. We're all one breathing, thriving organism, just like the Amazon rainforest. We are not separate. We just have different names. And that's, so as we utilize that connection with everyone around us, we not only empower each other, but then we can see our own power. I don't know if I made that clear enough. Was that well said enough?
Yeah, I think so. And also finding the ways to basically prove to yourself that you are an empowered being and that you're perfectly capable of creating your own reality is I think we also have a lot of help on that end from our guides of giving us these small synchronicities, small miracles, or just some small events in the beginning that slowly show you that, hey, this is actually real. I can actually create results, I'm actually able to make a shift in my own life. I can actually impact the life of other people, even if it's something very subtle. But always remember that the greatest force manifests itself through the most subtle shifts. So going slow in the beginning, and basically the whole key in the soul transformational process is to actually unshackle yourself through your belief systems that you are actually capable of doing awesome stuff in this life. We were just convinced, and we convinced ourselves that we are unable to do these things. And I think what we're working in this lifetime is to peel off those layers that hinder us from actually shining through and being our true selves, and working through all those layers that we have attracted in this lifetime, and generations before us have perpetuated even more and passed it on to us, so we can now actually do something with it. And I think most of us in our generations, the adults right now who are listening, regardless how old or young you are, I think our purpose is to be this type of wall or transitional generation who are taking up all that crap of the past, of past generations, thousands of years, that it was those things that were perpetuated over and over and over again, all those disruptive cycles. We take it up in ourselves and it's done, it stops here. We're going to transform this crap, and it stops with us now. We're not going to pass it on to the newer generations who are going to live in the newer reality, basically.
Right. And as
and it can be very difficult and scary and shitty sometimes. So accept that part of it as well. Don't deny it.
Exactly. And the other example you were talking about when you oversteer. So I don't know if the example I always see is on a boat. When you're driving a boat, the steering takes a little bit. So you don't need to steer anymore. Just steer and kind of wait for it to go. And then there are people like me and like a lot of individuals early on that don't see the result. So then you like steer it all the way over, and then all of a sudden now you're going that way, you know. And so that patience thing is always a thing that's coming through all the time. And an example came up while you were talking. The other empowering thing, I've been doing this with kiddos. It's really cool. There's almost always a cloud around, you know, and it's the easiest to change clouds, I find. And so as an example of self-empowerment and teaching yourself what you can do, break that cloud up, watch the cloud and decide what you want the cloud to do, and just ask it to do it, and just, you know, put your focus onto it. And as that, it happens relatively quickly. It'll break up, and then you'll notice the other clouds are all fine too. That's the best part, is that you have like an example of, I did that one, you know. And all things in our reality we call to us, and we create that reality. And so as we start to break down these things and get to see that we're basically in a lucid dream, you know, and that all of this negative self-talk and planning for the worst case scenario is actually us calling to the universe saying, I want that bad thing to happen, instead of preparing for something, you know. And just a few things here and there, changing the way that we interact with the world around us, we can then become the lucid dreamer in our dream. We can then have control over the environment. I think I want the sky to be purple today, or whatever it is, you know. You can, there's no limitation there. And I just wanted to bring up that boat reference, because I do that a lot. I don't see a difference. And all of a sudden you're in China, you know?
Yeah, like also you have to take into account that we live in a physical reality, which is like very dense. So
yeah,
it needs time to transform and to actually represent and reflect back to us like what we actually wanted to manifest.
yeah.
But it's moving much quicker now than like 10 years ago or just a few years ago. So we're speeding up. We're becoming lighter. I think like also many of us have like noticed this almost instantaneous karma, like stuff coming back at you, or like when something, I know, like in your relationship, maybe you say something or some incident occurs that like creates an entanglement or something unpleasant. It's like things happen in a way that gets resolved very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like you, I know, like someone says something to you that was very rude and upset you, and like you're going to hold on to that for 6 months, and maybe next year you're going to talk about it and resolve it. It's like they said it, you let it be, and like in the afternoon you say a few words, okay, resolved, moving on.
Right.
Done.
Exactly. And there's more need for that. Like the higher frequency you keep, the more noticeable the dirt is. The dirt, I don't know a better, you know, the dirtiness, whatever it is that's clinging to you that doesn't serve you. It's more noticeable. And so it's more of like just a knee-jerk kind of reaction of, I need to wipe that off now, you know. And allowing yourself to do that, not questioning yourself. There's no reason to. Like, how is that going to affect you in a negative way? There's no reason for you to spend time questioning it. I mean, you can do what you want. For me, I don't find use in that. And so just do it and move on. Just like you said, I'm noticing the same thing. And noticing as I'm healing through things, this is really cool to watch. So, you know, we have this ancestral healing that everybody knows about, and a lot of us are doing and stuff. And as I've noticed healing certain things that are in my experience that came from this particular incarnation, I'm healing through them privately over here, doing my own gig. And then literally the day that I'm really feeling the healing, like I notice the improvement, I see the difference in my kiddo too. Like you can see your ancestral healing stopping, you know, or what's the right word? The ancestral damage that doesn't have to linger and go on to the next generation, you know. So that's another really validating point, that you can see that what you're doing is causing something very powerful to occur.
Yeah, and I think like you can also like recognize those changes, those ancestral healing stuff. Like you stop an old pattern and that, that you can also like notice it in your own physical body too, like how you
Yeah,
behave, or how do you feel, like how do you appear, because you stop that old pattern and like you're going in a new direction right now.
exactly.
So that's also very cool, what I also noticed in my own life.
Mhm.
Okay, so the last part of engaging mind, body, and spirit is spirit. And what I have written down is connect with your inner self by doing things that bring you true joy and actual fulfillment, not instant gratification, because you deserve lasting joy.
I
So
like
yeah,
that.
like we are like so geared towards this instant gratification in our society, especially the past 2 decades have like really amplified this whole aspect in our culture and society, which is like fast food, like it fills your belly, but it's not good for you. It's not nutritional. And yeah, and the best way to like actually connect with your inner self is to do things that you actually enjoy and bring you fulfillment. And yeah, like what you've said, higher vibrations, like all of a sudden just getting up from the chair and dancing and singing can be something like that too as well, like something very spontaneous. But it can be other things too, like maybe some people like to cook. I'm an artist, I like to draw or paint or whatever you want. I kind of do it all the day, so I'm mostly living my joy.
Awesome.
But yeah, like but and most of us, like I also talk to many people and observe many friends and family members that it is not even like clear to them what do they actually enjoy doing in life or what is their purpose,
Right.
because like they got so lost in all these, I don't know, this labyrinth of like confusion and illusions
Right.
of, hey, like if you actually live for your joy or do things that bring you joy, then you're like not being productive, or like that doesn't make you any money and you're lazy. And yeah, like
Right.
you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that because that raises your vibration. But yeah. And yeah, like for the people that maybe don't, are not really connected to their joy, like is there anything that you could recommend maybe? How can they reconnect back to that original state in which they came in when it was
Yes.
clear to them what their actual joy was?
And I think this is like really, I think of all the things we discussed, probably the most important thing. We have it seems like that when you affect it, and not seems it's specific, that when we affect spirit in this way, it all ripples down, it all rolls downhill into all the different experiences. Play, whatever play means for you. Some people play is math, some people play is construction of things like creation with art, writing, sculpting, like you said, cooking as a art form, some type of engagement in
Gardening, yeah.
yeah, gardening. um I find that a lot of people who are parents get to have that little in that a lot of individuals who aren't don't get the opportunity to have, and that is the kids are playing, and as a parent you want to like participate and do something with them. And it's like now you have the excuse that you didn't need before, but somehow culture or society has taught us that that's what we needed, that
Yeah, like
for an
you
adult to
permit
sit in that,
yourself to play, yeah.
yeah, for an adult by themselves on the slide at the park, or digging in the sandbox or whatever, and to move through that and to not need to have that barrier, it would be awesome. However, I did find it a lot easier once I had a kid, and just whatever that play means to you. Play doesn't even have to be a real activity, it's how the activity is done, that playfulness. I'm i that is an energy that I have happily, and I'm gladly accepting that I get to embody most of the time these days. And that's always the message: find your highest joy. By the way, your highest joy is your mission. Everybody wants to know, what's the mission, what's the point, what's the meaning of life, and all this stuff.
Hmm.
Your mission is to go to your highest joy. When you're in your highest joy, you're affecting your everything, you're improving the frequency all over, and it goes all the way through the cosmos. The the ripples of that. You can follow those ripples. It's so cool. It goes all the way out and out and out and affects everybody in the whole experience. A way to relieve self enough to get to that point, some individuals find really useful is things like astral projection. That is a kind of a meeting of higher self that occurs in a way that gives the permission to be in that place. I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but it felt like I needed permission. That was my hang up. And so I bring up astral projection because that's what most people are doing in sleep time. Whether you're doing it with intention, you're going into meditation, okay, now I'm going to go hang out someplace else, or remote viewing or whatever. A lot of people right now, that's what's happening at night. That's why your nighttime stuff's getting so crazy and different. And so allowing yourself to engage in that, and not placing your happiness on the other side of an if, like you had earlier discussed. You know, I'll be happy when this happens, if this happens, you know, and then I'll be good. What do you want to do right now? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have the opportunity to do right now at this moment? You can always do something, even if it's like very small, that can, you know, like alleviate the density in you, or like to bring you a bit of joy or relief from what you're experiencing in your heavy day. And it's like, doesn't need to be long. Like you can do a lot in 5 minutes too, or like 10 minutes, or whatever makes sense to you. And you can like always put aside like 5 or 10 minutes from your day. Like, I don't care how busy you are.
Right. And it's the attitude that you bring to it. Like, I've done some really annoying, arduous tasks that when I bring a playful heart to it, you know, it's still the same task, but it's not at the same time. It's changed. And it's kind of fun too. It's an experiment that I've done over the years too, is that when I do that outwardly, overtly enough that others can notice it, you watch everybody else change too, you know, and so you could be working in a factory on a line in the most loud, boring, metallic place in the world, and still being in a place of joy, you know. And so it's just what's your intention. A lot of people don't understand, I think, that intention is I'm deciding this is what it's going to be now. You know, I'm making this decision now, and whatever you decide it just is. And so it's not, there isn't some secret code or spell series of words that you need to say. It's just, this is what's going to happen. And because I love this, and this is what I want to have, and it will, you know. So allowing yourself to release all of those other baggages and stuff will take time, and that's okay. To allow yourself to be patient with that, I think, is probably the most important thing about this, the progress and recovery from self, is that allowing yourself to not, I always hold the highest bar for myself. You know, I have a higher expectation of myself. And when I look at that and use that in my experience, it seems like it slows. Like, it slows the progress, and it makes it less fun and all those types of things. So allow myself to take the time that whatever it is going to be required of me, you know, be patient with myself and gentle and kind to myself, the same kind of kindness and gentleness that I would give anyone else. You know, I deserve that same kindness and gentleness too, you know. And when we get what we give to ourselves, goes to everybody around us as well, and then back again. You know, what was it they've always said, what you give out to the universe comes back to you tenfold, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. Excuse me. Okay, so I think we covered most of it. Like, in the closing, do you wish to add something more? Maybe other than
I have an
the
announcement
Zoom
to make.
meetings? Okay, then please do so. Yes.
Thank you. I through my channel, we have 2 meetings a week on that are free. Zoom meetings. There's one on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and tomorrow on Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, they're free. You don't have to have your camera on. You don't have to have your audio on. It's just a bunch of us, just like this conversation Guardian and I are having, and only it's a larger group, and just having the private exchange and interaction. Guardian has some awesome stuff through his Patreon he mentioned earlier. Before I forget, I wanted to bring up his book again. That book, there's some amazing stuff in there. I found so there's what's it called, it's the Book of Spells, is that what you called that end chapter?
Yeah, it's like a collection of maybe proclamations or spells that are through the book, and some extra ones in there too.
Yeah, and there's a handful of those that, I mean, that's like, you know, that's like spiritual candy. Give that stuff out to people and watch them change. It's amazing. Just doing some, one of those in particular, I am still noticing the result of the unlocking. Like, it takes a while. All things, the more packed they are, and again, giving yourself the same patience, so does all the other energies that go up and up and up. And so allow yourself to, you're basically a flower, right? And each petal needs to be able to open on its own before it can fully be in bloom. And so allowing that for yourself, knowing that those spells, those experiences, that whole book, so helpful. Again, it is free on one of the platforms, because it's you know, the example or the world that we live in. It requires a dollar per copy, but it's so worth it. So just wanted to bring that up too.
Yeah, and if you're lazy like I am and you don't have time to read, you can find the audiobook on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's on the front page of it, and you can just listen to it. It has pretty music, and you can listen to the sound of my voice for 1 hour and 14 minutes.
Leia wants to know what book it is. It's it's Thoth.
It's the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have it in the description of this video or whatever other content that I have produced. It's there, so you can find it.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually refer to it to some people as the Emerald Tablets 2.0. It's a really beautiful channeling from Thoth. And also your Patreon thing. It's the same kind of concept that I do, only it is a little bit more private, I would say, because there's a membership that's required for it, and it's really beautiful. Guardian does channelings and stuff. He does meditations. The healings that have come through with those in those meetings have been profound, and I couldn't say the praise is very high for those meetings. So if anyone has the opportunity to join, I would strongly suggest it.
Like there are multiple tiers, so you don't have to subscribe to the $11 one. There's a $4 one, which gives you access to all the recordings of all the channelings, meditations, and all that. If anyone is interested, you can check it out too. Okay, so thank you for joining us, High Vibrations. Lots of love to everyone who has been here with us during the live event. And if you watch through the replay, then many virtual hugs to you. So thank you for being here, and hope to see everyone next week too.
Bye.
Be at ease.